Hello, public opinion aficionados, and welcome to Rasmussen Report's Reality Check, your spot to go to follow the revolution. And I'm wearing red tonight. I think it's a really good color for a revolution. And I think that's really what we're seeing right now. Because just months ago, we were talking about Rasmussen Report's numbers on civil war. It seemed a real likelihood. They tried to take out Donald Trump. We came an inch away from presidential candidate that was the front runner being assassinated. And now here we are talking about drastic change coming to the United States government in a way I don't think anybody ever could have predicted. It's a revolution. Maybe you could call it Revolution X, which I joked about on Twitter, but that's already trademarked by a really horrible arcade game from the 90s. But that's what it is. It's a revolution of people who now can literally run circles around the fakeness, the elites, the people that would use their credentials as a bludgeon to lie to you, to steal from you, to take away your right of self-governance. And it's really horrible. But here's what Merriam-Webster calls a revolution. The first definition is about spinny things. But the second one is a sudden, radical, or complete change, a fundamental change in a political organization, especially the overthrow or renunciation of one government or ruler and the substitution of another by the governed. The governed have certainly found their substitution in a way that continues to blow people's minds, especially the people who've been taking money for decades, to maintain the power of the blob in DC that's been siphoning off money from you, from your kids, from your family that's worked hard for generations to build a life in America. Like this is where we're at. And they are losing power and they know it. An overthrow or renunciation of one government, a government of the kleptocracy for the kleptocracy. That's what's being overthrown. And maybe it'll turn hot. Maybe it'll be a civil war. Maybe it'll be another revolution. I do not know. But I think we're in the middle of it now. Because things are really starting to heat up. And before I take a look at these, what we got tonight, and if you see the headline, it says Zoomers. It says we're talking about Zoomers because I think they are on the leading edge of this revolution, but it's a little bit of a bait and switch. I think, as you'll see, it's really maybe the millennials who may step up. Guilty as charged. You know, I'm kind of on the cusp of being a millennial. I'm a honorary millennial. I was born in 79. I'm actually a zennial, which I think is best generation, but nobody acknowledges it. You know, born early enough to play outside, and my parents didn't care when I came home to get in fights and play dodgeball and to have garbage pail kids and all that stuff, to see the sort of the trailing end of the early Dungeons and Dragons phase, to just have fun. And then yet I also grew up with the internet, and I think that's an important distinction from Gen X. So you have millennials and then you have your Zoomers, and it's weird to be talking about them because I know a few Zoomers, and man, they are weird. I'm sorry if you're a Zoomer watching this, but my advice to you is get a thicker skin. But whatever. I don't want to pick on my audience. Holy smokes. Stephen Miller just confirmed that foreign fraud rings have been using fake social security numbers and identity to steal billions of taxpayer benefits through the IRS. Miller confirmed Doge is about to get the records. It's getting fast. It's accelerating very, very fast. Over a 10-year normal budget window, you could be talking about saving over $1 trillion by clamping down on massive fraud in our tax and entitlement systems, including, again, those carried out by organized fraud and theft rings. Are all of our elected representatives criminals? No. Are all of the federal workers in D.C.? No, they're not. They're not all. In fact, Elon Musk estimated that really only 20% of it is about fraud, but 80% is negligence and oversight and incompetence. And at a certain point in time, you shouldn't be shielded from criminal negligence. When you have databases and controls and systems that allow this much money, this many people's futures and livelihoods being taken from them, this is the revolution we're talking about, and it is coming fast. And it's going to change politics, because just a few years ago, we'd be listening to people snipe about Republican and Democrat policy points. Oh, no, 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 no. You can't have that kind of tax cut. Our tax cut's better. Oh, no, no, no. Even though they, plan to raise taxes. Oh, no, no, no. You can't have tax cuts on corporate capital gain. You can't have that. You can't have billionaire tax cuts. You have to have this kind of tax cuts. What it comes down to is, when this much stuff is exposed, and when one party is tied into it, very committed to it, they've lost all ability to govern authentically. I look at it this way. Look at 2026. Look at I see some super chats. I gotta put them off. I gotta put them off for a little bit. 2026. What Democrat is going to credibly show up and say, you know what? I'm in charge of the Democrat Party now. Here's our policy. Here's our solution to the problems we have. Here's how we're going to fix America. And that plan needs to be believable, and it needs to be different than Donald Trump's. And I don't see how that could possibly happen. That's the issue, because the crisis isn't just, the economy's bad, but we got an invasion at the southern border. That's not the problem. The problem is that we are at the end of the fourth turning, and we're going to get into that a little bit as well. I talked a lot about that in the other video, but I think this is going to be a running theme, because this is the end game. I think we're in the end game. But I can tell you we're in the end game from some politicians. The walls are closing in. It's time to flip, swamp rats who are down there Googling immunity, immunity deals, plea deals on their Google, just Googling, how do I get immunity? How do I find a criminal defense lawyer and get immunity? Breaking. Representative Tim Burchett says he thinks there's a paper trail of money that was sent overseas that ended up back in the pockets of lawmakers in Washington, D.C. We thought it might happen. We thought it might be possible. This is it. This is it. Where there's smoke, there's fire. The surface has not yet been scratched. He said there will soon be a lot of retirements. Retirements to Guantanamo Bay, I hope. A lot of retirements in Congress. People are not prepared for this. How is mainstream media still going to launch its same kind of headlines day after day, week after week, when everybody sees through what's going on? It was a kleptocratic plundering of a late-stage empire's treasury. So here's the Zoomers. And like I said, it's really probably the millennials, because we're talking about the fourth turning. Okay. I'll give you 30 seconds. I have another video where I go into it a little longer. It's a concept from historians, and it talks about cyclical natures of history that play out because of the way generations are brought up in a different context. And this one only goes up to 1984. The four turnings follow the pattern of the seasons of the year: spring, summer, fall, winter. And the winter is the crisis. And our last crisis was the period between the great economic crash 1929 all the way up until the end of World War II. People were called into action. A new generation of heroes stepped up, solved the crisis that the prior generations had made for them, and ushered in a new era of aligned social values. And we looked at a different chart last time: supply and demand of order. At the end of a crisis, the demand for order is high, but also the supply. And then when we get into an awakening, the supply of order is still high. The institutions that people built, the communities that they formed, still create a heck of a tailwind, making this really probably the best, because people are now no longer demanding order. They're experimenting with new things. They're breaking out of the societal norms. They're doing things like, Woodstock. Well, I don't know if that's a good thing to put here or whatever. But when they get to past the awakening, that's when the supply of order starts to fragment, when all of the systems fall apart. When starting in the period of 84, I think a lot of this was ushered in by Carter as well. You saw a lot of cultural decay. You saw a lot of families fall apart. You saw a lot of economic hard times. Growth of a globalism movement that gutted the American middle working class, like later into the 90s and 2000s. And then we have our crisis period. It's not on this chart, but the point is that it would be the next one, the next column. And each of these generations advances up diagonally. And so actually the Zoomers are what is called the artist generation, who these are the kids during World War II, the ones that were too young to enlist and go off to D-Day. And I think it's fair to say that most of the Zoomers aren't going to really be involved, but they still are part of this because the polling, which is what we're going to talk about, is pretty stunning. And the millennials are the hero generation that are going to step in and solve the failures of Gen X and the boomers. The lack of supply of order. That's where apparently this is going. And you're starting to see it now. Like, listen, this is a loosey-goosey kind of thing, right? So you're seeing like some Doge kids. You're seeing Elon Musk, who's Gen X. You're seeing JD Vance, who's a millennial. But the point is that the people that predated them failed. And right before a crisis, the demand for order is high again. It's at its highest, and the supply of order is low. And I think it's fair to say that our supply of order is low because every institution has used their position of authority and lack of a moral rudder to screw over Americans left and right. That's what it's all about. That's what's been happening the entire time. So we're going to go back and look at 18 to 39-year-olds, and we're going to take a little bit of a scalpel on the recent numbers. But the reason these are important is because 18 to 39-year-olds have always been super left, and acknowledge that when we go back here to numbers in 2016, a lot of the people have aged out, right? There's new 18 to 39-year-olds now, and some of them moved up to the 40 to 64 bracket. But this was April of 2016. Donald Trump had not yet, I think, clinched the GOP primary at that point in time. But if Donald Trump doesn't win, no, where are we? Hold on. This is the one I want. Sorry, folks. Which phrase best represents your opinion of Donald Trump? Always Trump or never Trump? And this was asked of all likely voters in that spring of 2016. And at that point in time, Donald Trump had not made his case. Only 23% said always Trump. 54% said never Trump. It's actually astounding that he won. And I think we all know it's because Hillary Clinton was an unlikable side of beef that was chucked into a van. But look at 18 to 39-year-olds. 20% fewer than everybody. 56% more than everybody said never Trump. 18 to 39-year-olds were very, very, very strongly against him, more than anybody else by age bracket, almost as much as black voters, really. I mean, women, right in there with women. More than independents. And this was like, it was like this a long time. 18 to 39-year-olds just didn't really like Republicans. Donald Trump hadn't yet fully convinced the country that he was different. And then we have this going back even farther, 2009. Look at the numbers here. 18 to 29-year-olds, Obama approval, 68%. Way more than anybody. 52% for 30 to 39-year-olds, but 18 to 29-year-olds, man, Obama was cool. 44% strongly approve, only 16% strongly disapprove. They're really optimistic. This was just mere months after Obama was elected. Look at Right Track, 38%, and 18 to 29-year-olds were more optimistic than everybody but 50 to 64-year-olds. I don't know what that is. Maybe some noise. And only 34% of 18 to 29-year-olds said that they'd vote for a Republican on the generic ballot. So Republicans was a toxic brand. Donald Trump was a Republican, toxic to 18 to 29-year-olds. 30 to 39-year-olds didn't like him much better. And this really shows crazy swing. Data Republican, I love this account. Follow her if you haven't already. Replied to one of my tweets. Like I put a tweet out. Trump has a 56% approval rating among 18 to 39-year-olds. That's today. Higher than any other age group. Isn't this a prediction of the fourth turning? Well, yes, it is, Data Republican. Yes, it is. Because what we're seeing in fourth turnings is rapid and drastic changes in public opinion. The 18 to 39-year-olds, they weren't concerned about order when they were following and voting for Obama. They didn't care about order when they're, Hillary Clinton. It's like, yeah, it's her turn. That's why they were voting. All of a sudden, the 18 to 39-year-olds are leading the pack saying, no, we need order. This is not working out for us. Back in the fall, we asked voters in all of the swing states, will today's children be better off than their parents? And only 34% of 18 to 39-year-olds said yes. That's horrible. They know they have no future. Somebody very astutely said that the Trump phenomenon, and whether you believe it or not, comes down to how insulated you are to economic situations. And the 18 to 39-year-olds are not well insulated, like almost ubiquitously. And it's like, yeah, you're 65-year-old on Social Security and Medicaid, sitting at home in front of MSNBC is awfully insulated from the economy. So here's Trump versus Clinton, Trump versus Biden 1.0, and Trump versus, assorted Democrats this cycle. And among 18 to 39-year-olds, it's a 5-period moving average. Some of my followers have seen this before. But look at the Trump support here. You can't see the 5-period moving average before, and it looks like people really, giving Trump more of a shot up until election season. And he finished with about 28% in our polling, 18 to 39-year-old support. And Hillary Clinton almost 48. So Trump was down 20 points there. That's a really big deficit. And fast forward to 4 years later, 2020, and Trump gained a lot of 18 to 39-year-old support. But he couldn't pull it out. He finished, almost 5 points down. But he almost got 18 to 39-year-olds. Trump almost got to above Kamala Harris. In fact, in some of our polling, he was above Kamala Harris. Sad, man. I'm not sad. I'm happy. I'm intent. We're fighting a revolution here. Put your game face on. And so this is a major turnaround, but it's even more because here's today's daily presidential snapshot. And if you look at Trump approval, it's not in here. I'm sorry. It's every week we save down 5 days of data to create crosstabs for presidential approval and right direction, wrong track. 2,000 U.S. likely voters as of last Thursday night, and 18 to 39-year-old Trump approval, 56%. 56%. 32% strongly approve. Now, the strongly approve is less than other people, but the 56% is higher than middle-aged voters. That's at 55, and 65 and older is only 50. Old folks used to be the most conservative, and that has completely flipped in the last few years. And look how polarized they are, though, right? They know what they believe. But look at 18 to 39-year-olds strongly disapprove, only 28%. Only 28% of 18 to 39-year-olds strongly disapprove of Trump. And that's like they're trying to crack jokes against him on Saturday Night Live. John Oliver, like all those guys on late night shows. It's not working. In fact, it's like anti-working. These people are also in our polling most likely to be tapped into independent online sources. And that's the thing. It's like finally the promise of the internet is here. We've broken free of the cycle of gaslighting of the mainstream media. Remember, 56%, 68% of these people approved of Obama just 15 years ago. Complete change. These people went to Hillary Clinton by 20 points. And what are we looking at? 32, 42 to 56. They went from Democrat plus 20 to Trump plus 14. Did I do that right? Trump plus 14. That's a that's a 34-point swing in 18 to 39-year-olds. That is like a death blow to the Democrat Party. And these people are not dying. It's these people over here, like the 65. That's who's dying, not the 18 to 39-year-olds. A lot of this was probably COVID. A lot of it is, I mean, they're just not, the Democrats aren't the zeitgeist right now. You have literally crazy AOC who supports like CEO murderers. You have shrieking harpies. They're like 75-year-old hall monitors. They're people that want to crank down on freedom of speech. It's like they've become a complete joke. And if you look at Right Direction too, so we're down. There was a record last week. Right Direction for the first time was positive. Right Direction was above Wrong Track by 1 point. It was 47% to 46%. Now Right Direction's down a point to 46. And Wrong Track's only 47. So this is like as good as it gets. This is a point away from as good as it gets. Remember, a couple months into Obama's first term, a couple months, you know, there were like Greek columns and white doves being released. This guy was the salvation for politics. He was hope personified. And Right Direction, Wrong Track was only at 38%. 38% right track for him in May of 2009. 46% right now under Trump. 45% 18 to 39-year-olds. 45%. And I'll take them. I have a few more things to get to before I do chats. And also, let me check my phone. There's a chance we might get a special guest as well. Special guest who might come and hang out. So yeah, like this is historic. This is completely historic. How are they going to recover? Democrats are like almost a laughingstock. Here's Right Direction, Wrong Track chart with updated for last week's results. Look at that red and blue line. They're almost there. They're almost kissing. Look at how like Trump inaugurations is the only thing that gets these two lines close to each other. Look at this is most of Obama's first term over here. The tail end of Obama's first term was in the 30s. People thought he was a socialist. Come on, man. Yeah, they're kind of a laugh. I laugh at them. On Twitter, I go on Twitter and laugh. When I say laughing stock, it's like it's not like the way I perceive it is I don't think they have any good options forward. They've put themselves in a situation where they can't reform. They've put themselves in a situation where the right reform platform is already kind of taken. They've put themselves in a situation where nobody believes them. And that didn't used to be a problem for them. They would just use the mainstream media to lie, but now everybody knows that the mainstream media was taking USAID money. And so they're really left with nothing else except for kind of sad virtue signaling on the internet, if they do it at all. So I'm going to take a look deeper, take an examination of the subgroups here. So I broke it down by 18 to 29-year-old. This is all of February, so this is 4,500 U.S. likely voters. It's not published anywhere. You get the raw data here. Sorry, it doesn't look good. I did it 5 minutes before we came on. But look at that. It isn't 30 to 39-year-olds dragging up 18 to 29-year-olds. And so the hero generation here, you know, actually overlaps a little bit probably into the 40s. But the hero generation here, 45% says on the right direction. But also the hero generation combined with a smattering of Zoomers here, 44%, only down 3 points, although the 30 to 39-year-olds are up 1 point. And it is kind of across the board, but look, it's the 65 and older who are underwater 5. And that's a trend. That's, and again, we can talk about why that is. It could be because they watch cable TV news more. It could be because they're the only people still reading newspapers. The New York Times goes to some people. It could be because they're afraid of what's going to happen to their entitlements. This could be the concern about Social Security and Medicaid getting cut. Or maybe it's just like 60, 70 years of presidential, of look at how Trump holds himself. It's so different than the previous people. That could be part of this. And people are going to talk about the gender signal, and we're going to debunk that one. We're going to actually debunk that one. So I think this is really important. Now, we have sliced and diced in the past and found some hidden, some really surprising trends, let's just say. Some trends where it's like, okay, men and women aren't that far apart. Married and unmarried men and women aren't that far apart. But, oh man, look at unmarried single cat lady. Like, look at cat ladies. And they went to Harris by 30 points, like way more than anybody else in our polling. It's not the case here. It really isn't. Everybody keeps throwing white liberal women under the bus. And I've done the polling. I can say that minority liberal women are way more left, but the white liberal women, it's not that much. It really isn't. So here's Trump approval by sub age bracket, 18 to 29-year-olds. And what's that? 49% for 18 to 29-year-olds, 48%. So he's almost at parity, net plus one. That's really good considering these people just came out of college. They probably don't care that much about politics. They're probably getting like their news from push notifications through Axios or like Sports Center or something. I don't know. Like maybe Jon Stewart. And yet they're split on whether Trump's doing a good job or not. Only 33% strongly disapprove. 30 to 39-year-olds, 55%. 39% disapprove. That's massive. That's like, what was that? Is that 16 points? That's ridiculous. 30 to 39-year-olds. Now, of course, this is like, okay, the reality of families setting in. That's who's struggling. These are the people that can't pay for their groceries and whose small businesses got shut down under Obama during COVID. And if you jump up to the 65 and olders, it's only 51% approval, although 48%. So they're net plus three. So the 18 to 29-year-olds aren't that far apart from the 65 and older crew. But look at age. Look at age and gender. Men 18 to 29-year-olds, 52%. That's bigger than 49, but not by much. 52%. 30 to 39-year-olds, what's that? 40, 50, 60%. That's got to be the highest. So men 30 to 39-year-olds, people that have to support their families, people that have to go out and work hard, and come home and then do the housework. Like that's, they're the most base of any of these gender and age subgroups. Women 18 to 29-year-olds, 45 points. So they're 7 points under men 18 to 29-year-olds. So they're definitely left there, right? But this is not like caught red-handed smoking gun. And oftentimes, like you do see some weird results in here oftentimes, but this is like, they're not that anti-Trump. Only 38% strongly disapprove. I think total strong disapproval is only 36 or 37 right now. So it's being driven by party and liberals, not necessarily the fact that they're 18 to 29-year-old women. It's like Trump hate seems to be like, spread across the age, gender, and race spectrum. Even black approval is not that bad for Trump right now. It's really not. 30 to 39-year-old women, a majority approve of Trump, 51%, and only 27% strongly disapprove. So it's like it is these people, the 18 to 29-year-old women, but not that much. Maybe it's my polling, 4,500 people. This is a really massive poll, but maybe I got a lot of like non-college educated women. I don't know, but this is you're not going to see numbers like this. The margin of error here is probably like less than a point. So there it is. They the millennials and Zoomers are based. They are hardly, if at all, any more anti-Trump than older voters, and are I like really keeping up. So this is like broad spectrum appeal for Trump. And again, these numbers are from after weeks of Trump's presidency, it's like I just don't see this going anywhere. Like, where is the chink in the armor? Who are the Democrats going to go after that they haven't already to try and change minds, to win hearts and minds away from Trump and what he's doing? And I think the desperation is palpable because, as a House representative says, people are implicated in criminality and accountability is coming for them. We already saw the first RICO case. We already saw RFK come out and say he refers players in the pharmaceutical industry and in government regulators to the DOJ for a RICO investigation. Here, I'll zoom in a little bit. Sorry, I should have done this before if anybody wants to snapshot it. But we have more angles to come at this from. President's Day today, and we looked ahead and we have polling. We're really the best people to do that. You know, Atlas Intel is great, whatever. I think my early numbers are better than their early numbers, but where are they on the issues? I haven't seen Trafalgar polling on President's Day and what it means for our society, or putting out a continuous stream of right direction, wrong track. We really are unique. And because we're at the end of the fourth turning, I think public opinion is going to be a super huge part of this. So please, if you haven't and you like what you're hearing, click like, subscribe. We're going to be doing this at least 3 times a week and putting out a lot of content because this is like not, I mean, can you imagine me putting out content like this if like Romney was president? We could talk about his binders of women. So this is American adults, excuse me. This is American adults and not likely voters. So we didn't screen for whether people say they only occasionally or never vote. We left everybody in. And so these results are weighted a little bit differently and will absolutely be more left than likely voters. They absolutely will, as we'll see. But what we're trying to figure out here is a relative trend. There have been 5 different presidents in the United States in the past 30 years. Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, Barack Obama, Donald Trump, and Joe Biden. Which one of these has been the best president? 12% Bill Clinton, 9% George W. Bush. Barack Obama, 32%. So even though he exited office with an approval rating in the 30s, according to our numbers, I think it was in the 30s, 32% still say he was one of the best. Now, again, this is adults. There could be illegal aliens in here, people who've never voted once in their life. Donald Trump, 34%. So Donald Trump is the best president, according to American adults, but only 34%. And then there's Joe Biden. History will not remember Joe Biden well. Republicans don't like him because he sucked. Democrats don't like him because he's getting blamed for losing for Democrats. Joe Biden and George W. Bush, 4% and 9%. George W. Bush left office with an approval rating of 33%. So here's an important point. We got asked this question all the time. How come Joe Biden's approval rating's 43? Why isn't it lower? Why isn't it in the 30s? And that's because the people that support Biden were insane, like a lot of them. And they convinced themselves that they approve of this guy just to own the chuds. But here in this question, they don't have any compunction about throwing him under the bus. So even though he left office with an approval rating 10 points higher than Bush, I guess Bush is higher up because like the Democrats like him now, maybe. But look at the 18 to 39-year-olds. This is important. So they're not willing to say that Donald Trump was the best president. They're less likely than any other age group, 26% compared to 39 and 40%. But when we get to the next question, let's look at a few others of these. It's like middle-aged voters remember Bill Clinton fondly. Younger voters remember George W. Bush fondly, which means they only remember his Kamala Harris endorsement, probably. I guess he didn't endorse Kamala. He only endorsed Biden. 18 to 39-year-olds still like Barack Obama, but the middle age, 40 to 64-year-olds don't. That's because they were 18 to 39-year-olds during Obama. These are the people that like 68% of them So yeah, like even though 65 and older have a lower Trump approval, 40% of them, more than anybody else, still say that he's one of the best presidents. And if you go out to party here, I'm sorry I didn't have this in Excel, but 53% of Democrats say Obama, and only 7% say Biden. More here, you saw it here first. This top line is Bill Clinton, and the second line is George W. Bush. Democrats, as many Democrats say George W. Bush is one of the best presidents as they say Joe Biden is. That's hilarious. I love it. That is hilarious. Like 40, 50 years, whatever, in office as a Democrat. He was the vice president under Obama. And just as many people say that that George W. Bush is a better president. And 12% say Bill Clinton. But Republicans, 64% say Trump. Only 12% say Bush. And independents are split between Trump and Bill Clinton. But my whole point here is that, okay, that's great. Maybe 18 to 39-year-olds don't say that Trump's best, but they're also less likely than everybody else to say he's worse. Which one of the 5 most recent presidents has been the worst president? And Donald Trump also takes the cake at 42%. And so the big winner here is George W. Bush, who was formerly the Democrats' worst president, and now they've projected all of their anger onto a new president appears. Donald Trump 42%, but Joe Biden 37%. Also taking a lot of slings and arrows from Barack Obama and Bill Clinton. Nobody thinks Bill Clinton was the worst. 37% for Biden. But here we are, 18 to 39-year-olds, and only 38% say Donald Trump, but it's 52% of 65 and older. So we've seen this time and time again. They're giving him a chance. That's what it comes down to, is they approve of what he's doing now, but it's not because they're like super always Trump. It's because they're paying attention to the news and he's doing things that are good. That's what's going on. And we covered it with this one, America's Golden Age. I think we did this maybe 4 episodes ago, but it's worth taking a peek. During his inauguration speech, President Donald Trump said the golden age of America begins right now. Agree or disagree? And this is from the 21st to the 23rd of January. And so Donald Trump hadn't even really done anything. And 56% of 18 to 39-year-olds, at least somewhat agreed, 30% strongly, more than anybody else. More than anybody else by a lot. 40 to 64-year-olds, it was only 49%. And only 22% strongly disagreed. That's like big. And look, they were most likely here too, to approve of changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. So this is proof. It's not because they've like been convinced by his entertainer's swan song or just, the Teflon Don. It's literally what he's doing. They're the people most objectively taking a new look, giving him a chance to do something in a way that other people didn't. Like, look how pissed off everybody else is about the Gulf of Mexico, Gulf of America. Only 36% of 40 to 64-year-olds approved of that. Only 39% of 65 and older, but it's a majority of 18 to 39-year-olds. They're like, sweet, America's back. Give me some America first. Give me some America first. And that's why this is a revolution. When the younger generation is on the leading edge of a populist uprising, like something new is coming. They can't run away. Like, how are they? Like, AOC can't outcool this. AOC can't change the name of the Gulf of Mexico to Gulf of America. She can't do that. All she's going to do is hero worship Luigi Mangione. Man, I should bring up that poll after we get through all of our stuff. So this is what this is where they're at. This is kind of where they're left with the Atlantic, the coming Democratic baby bust. And this isn't going to solve their problems either. Birth rates on the left fell in the last Trump presidency. That seems likely to happen again. Donald Trump, and if you don't know, the Atlantic is like an intellectual STD. You definitely don't want to read this. Please leave it to me to read it for you. Donald Trump's first term saw a great deal of political polarization. Right and left leaning Americans disagreed about environmental regulations and immigration. They disagreed about vaccines and reproductive rights. And they disagreed about whether or not to have children as Republicans started having more babies under Trump. The birth rate among Democrats fell dramatically. A few years ago, Gordon Dahl, an economist, I'm a numbers guy, not a words guy, at UC San Diego set out to measure how Trump's 2016 victory might have affected conception rates in the years following. And he and his colleagues found a clear effect starting after Trump's election through the end of 2018. 38,000 fewer babies than would have otherwise been expected were conceived in Democratic counties. By contrast, 7,000 more than expected were conceived in Republican counties in that same period. That's crazy. Over the past 3 decades, Republicans have generally given birth to more kids than Democrats have. But during those first years of the Trump administration, the partisan birth gap widened by 17%. You see a clear and undeniable shift in who's having babies. And this is great. I mean, people with a mental illness probably are not the ones to be raising children. But this supports everything we've seen on Reddit. I took a screenshot of a thread where 6 different anons were congratulating themselves for going out and getting vasectomies after Trump's inauguration. Now, it's Reddit, so most of those people were probably feds or LARPers, but that's the culture they're pushing. That's the culture they're pushing. It's literally nihilism. It's we're seeing it. They're literally the people in the meme. What's the name of that meme? Standing in a corner meme. Boom. This is the revolution here. This is blue anon. Trying to cope with, their own personal problems while everybody else is having a wild time changing the course of human history right now. I can't. So it's wild. And I really don't think they have anything to go on. I mean, just look at the front runners. I can't wait. Grok 3.0 is out. We should probably ask Grok who the 2028 front runners are for Democrats, because they literally have nobody. They have nobody. If you've learned something, please follow us at rasmussenreports.com, Rasmussen_poll at Twitter. Follow us on YouTube. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Mark_R_Mitchell at Twitter. And thanks for watching.